So for this video, I thought I'd show you a few handheld consoles that I've got in my collection of systems. You can see we've got the Nintendo Game Boy, we've got the Sega Game Gear, and also the Sega Nomad. Now, besides the obvious thing that these three have got in common, which they're all handhelds, they're all portable video game systems, they've also got something else in common, and that is that neither of these have got their original screens in them. All of them have got more modern LCD or IPS replacements inside them, which I think is pretty cool, because we're dealing with, in the case of the Game Boy, late 80s LCD screen technology, early 90s colour screen LCD technology in the case of the Sega Game Gear, and a screen that would have been very similar to the one found in the Game Gear in the Sega Nomad. And when you look at them today, they don't stack up too well. They don't look so good. So I thought I'd show you these. Now, I've got another Game Boy, an original DMG, dot matrix game, that stands for, that doesn't have a modified screen. So I can actually show you side by side the two Game Boys running, and you'll be able to see the difference. I've also got a Game Gear that's still got the original screen in it. So again, I can run those two side by side, and you'll see the difference between them. What I don't have is a Nomad with the original screen. I've literally just got this one, which I bought from a fellow Sega collector. That's Gruss Newton, who I've mentioned many, many times on my channel in the past. He was selling off some bits and pieces, so when I saw that he was selling his Nomad, I bought it without hesitation, because I know that it's coming from somebody who, they're a Sega collector, they love their Sega hardware, so I knew it was going to be a decent device, because otherwise Gruss wouldn't have bought it. So, what we've got here, we'll turn on the Sega Game Gear. It's got the multi-cart in it that I've shown many, many months ago, and I'm just going to fire up Sonic. I may need to turn the volume down, which I turned it up. Turn it down just so that you that doesn't overpower anything else. Now, it's going to be quite difficult to see this. I'm going to try and bring you in as best I can. I don't know why I'm touching the Game Gear screen. That's not going to help. In fact, I may actually bring this up. But that screen is absolutely fantastic. It really, really is. That looks amazing in comparison to what was originally in the Game Gear, which I'll show you because I'll do a side-by-side comparison. That looks awesome. Really, really sharp. The colours look great. This is the McWill LCD modification that you can do for the Game Gear. I'd recommend getting someone to do it for you if you're not particularly good at soldering, because it's quite a challenging looking modification to do. So there's the Game Gear. The screen just looks great. Absolutely awesome. So I'll try and leave that running on the table there. And at the same time, let's fire up this Game Boy, which at the moment, we've got the green and black, which is fairly typical of what the Game Boy originally looked like. I've actually got an EverDrive cartridge inside this. So I'm just going to press start and allow it to fire up the game that's loaded onto the cartridge at the moment, which is a Castlevania game. There you go, the Castlevania Adventure. And it's just to show you how razor sharp and how great everything looks. Again, let me just turn the sound down. I mean, just look at this. Look at how good that is. That looks absolutely awesome. Razor sharp and just brilliant. And of course, if I click in this little wheel here, which would normally be the contrast adjustment, let me just kill this enemy first. If I click this in, look, it changes colour. It changes the colour palette that you can use. So if I cycle through a few more, I like that because that looks a bit like the Bivert and backlight mod that people do to original DMG screens. And we can just cycle through. And there you go. That looks more like the traditional Game Boy palette. That looks really cool. But just look at the quality of it. It looks sensational. This is the IPS V3 screen. And I made the mistake initially of not having the bracket to actually mount this into the shell. But I've got the bracket, and as you can see, the screen lines up pretty well with that bracket. It's not bad at all, is it? It looks pretty good. So the Game Boy can look really decent, because the Game Boy's screen originally in the original DMG, yeah, it's not great. It hasn't aged well at all. And I can even remember back in the day, whilst being amazed by the fact that you could play games that were this good on the go as a kid, I always thought that the screen wasn't terrific on the Game Boy. And to this very day, I still think that. It's unless the screen has also degraded somewhat, which is possible, the original that is, it doesn't look great, doesn't make for good viewing. So there's the Game Boy. Got that running down there. We've still got the Game Gear running, although that may appear to be a bit washed out and not looking so great because we're at a distance. And then we've got the Sega Nomad. So let's fire up the Nomad. Hopefully the battery pack will last in this one because it's. I did charge it up yesterday, but I did have it running for a while last night. And even this has got a really cool looking screen compared to what was in it originally. So yeah, I'll turn the volume down because again you don't want that. And there is Sonic. Just turn the Game Boy volume down because we had a bit of a mixture going on. And again, the screen looks pretty good. I mean, this is tapped into the composite video output. This will be like one of those little security camera or reversing cameras that you can get for the car. It'll be one of the little screens you get in that kit that somebody has taken because it's the same size. And they've obviously made it fit into the Nomad. And they've tapped it onto the composite video feed because typically that's what they use, which is cool. I mean, that looks pretty good. Doesn't look too bad, does it? Really impressed with that. I mean, unfortunately, I don't have a Nomad with the original screen to compare it with, but from what I've seen and from what I've been told, it looks very similar to the screen that was found in the original Game Gear. So I will grab an original Game Gear and also an original Game Boy, and we'll have footage of the same games running on both side by side, so you can really see the difference between these modded screens, as I'm failing at Sonic, and of course these modified, up-to-date screens, because it's fantastic. It really is. So we'll start off with some Super Mario Land 2. On the left, of course, is the IPS V3 screen, the modern day screen, and on the right is the original, and it's very, very difficult to see the original. You have to get the lighting just right in order to be able to see it for what it actually is. But yeah, there's a huge, huge difference in terms of quality, a huge difference in terms of how it looks on screen, and just trying to get it to go to some gameplay on both, as you can see. It's difficult in general to film these screens anyway, but you can see that the IPS screen comes across really nicely. That looks pretty decent. It really does. So I'll just let this footage run, and then we'll have a look at the Game Gear comparison. So again, these screens are going to be difficult to film, both of them. But here is the Sega Game Gear with Sonic the Hedgehog running on both Game Gears. On the left, we've got the McWill LCD upgrade, and on the right, we've got the original screen. And hopefully this is coming across. The original screen looks quite washed out, quite blown out. But of course, I know that you could just emulate these on other portable machines. You could emulate it on your phone, your cell phone, for instance. But I like using the original hardware, and I think it's great when you've got this new piece of technology that just adds a bit to that old device, you know, the Game Boy or the Game Gear. I just think it's absolutely awesome. So guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again soon.